Viewer discretion is advised.
This case has everything, y'all. Psychics, UFOs, cruise ships.
Oh my God.
Conspiracy theories, and of course, the glue to tie it all together, sovereign citizens.
Earlier?
Partners. I'd like to begin my case today with an excerpt from a 2019 article from the New York Times, as it paints an absolutely stunning picture of the story we are getting into today. And I do quote this article a lot. I loved it. It was so good. I highly recommend anybody read it. It's in my source notes on the website. Quote, one day in 2015, Barbara Lavender's husband returned from a UFO conference and handed her a business card. It bore a red theater curtain background, a vintage microphone, and golden white lettering that read, Sean David Morton, radio host, public speaker, author, director, screenwriter, actor.
Oh no.
If you got it all.
If you have more than 2 job titles on your business card,
Rethink your business card.
Evaluate. Look inward.
Mm-hmm.
The polymathic Mr. Morton, Jeff Lavender told his wife, was UFO royalty. Mr. Morton had spent years whisking ET-obsessed tourists to Area 51 for $99 a pop. Then leveraged his following into stints on the wee hours conspiracy show Coast to Coast AM, which at one point...
That's a good radio show.
It's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
At one point was the nation's number 3 talk radio program.
I don't think it still exists. Well, it might.
I hope not.
It's bizarre.
It's all like alt-right conspiracy bullshit.
It's just crazy people who are up in the middle of the fucking night who want to talk about whatever.
UFOs and all kinds of weird shit.
It's awesome.
And I love a UFO, but still.
so it's not a Sleepless in Seattle Tom Hanks situation.
No, it's when all the crazy people come out and just want someone to talk to.
Correct. He dabbled in other fringe arts such as remote viewing and psychic predictions about earthquakes, elections, and the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time Mr. Lavender saw him speak in Southern California, Mr. Morton had shifted to something truly fantastical. Instant debt relief.
Yep.
Apply directly to the forehead.
Apply directly to the forehead. And what absolutely confirms how absurd and frankly stupid the far-right faction of America is, the same guy peddling UFO merch and Area 51 tours started hosting a workshop called, quote, The Sovereign Factor. The revolution starts with you. In this workshop, he leaned into sovereign citizen ideology to encourage vulnerable people with high debt to emancipate themselves from the U.S. government to break free of their financial hardships.
God, that's so gross.
It's very gross. In the description of his workshop, he says, quote, do you realize you are all considered incompetent wards of the state, residents, and the chattel property of the U.S. federal government until you declare your emancipation?
I declare
bankruptcy! I didn't say it. I declared it. Learn all the secrets about how to get the government off your back and out of your life once and for all. He advertised an in-depth tutorial on the bond process that Lucy was talking about, which claimed that by submitting a specific set of papers, you could, quote, wipe out your mortgage, tax bills, and student loans, which, like, sign me the fuck up, Sean David Morton.
Absolutely. If it worked, I'd do it.
Yeah. This was obviously a very seductive offer, especially for folks like the Lavenders, who, like basically all average Americans, were still reeling from the 2008 housing crisis and the recession. They had also taken out a nearly $50,000 loan to help their son attend college. So, like, they had student loan debt as a family for their kid.
Yeah.
A loan that after losing her job and maxing out their deferment, Mrs. Lavender defaulted on, leaving her with over $70,000 in debt.
Mm-hmm.
So with her husband all energized and excited about the opportunity to wipe that debt clean, she trusts him. That's her husband. She's intrigued and, like, ready to get on board. At this point, it's like, I'll try anything.
And wives can attend the seminar for free.
For free. So
Lucky me.
she's into it. Despite her like lingering reservations about a UFO expert at a UFO convention selling debt relief services. She's like, well,
I forgot this
if
started
Mr.
at a
Lavender,
UFO conference.
yes.
Lots of overlap.
I trust.
As we said, lots
There's
of
so
overlap.
much. The metaphysical community has so much weird alt-right shit in it. It's
It
bizarre.
really does. I went to the psychic, I go to the psychic fair every June.
Mm-hmm.
And without fail, there will be a booth about like
Always.
5G.
It's the conspiracy theory shit. It's like such a short leap
It's a very
from
short
one
leap.
topic to the other. You got to be real careful about that.
Oh, yeah.
Your crystals are a gateway drug to QAnon.
Give it to me.
Give it to me. So again, from the New York Times, quote, as the Lavenders came to discover, sovereign fraudsters are the snake oil salesmen of our time, peddling a bouquet of grifts as varied as tax fraud and real estate scams. They prey on our suspicion of institutions, financial literacy, greed, and despair. You don't even have to buy into sovereign dogma to get swindled. You just have to be, as Ms. Lavender was, in debt. From 1990 to 2013, far-right extremists carried out more than 600 financial schemes that resulted in criminal charges, according to the researchers who run the U.S. Extremist Financial Crime Database, which is affiliated with the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism, and is the only clearinghouse of its kind.
Fun run.
And there were some figures that there were some figures that said this like scope of I saw some figures in my research that this had swindled like collectively across the United States and over X amount of years during this study, like over $6 billion from Americans.
Oh my God.
Just like this kind of like, but that's including tax evasion scams, housing scams, like the whole umbrella of this, like
Not just the seminars.
not the seminars. That's part of it, but like all of the fucking umbrella of the sovereign citizen financial scam bullshit.
And it's so far
has
reaching.
cost-
And that's
It's
got to be
huge.
just a really loose estimate because who knows?
Right. So our boy Morton had been a scammer for a while. So like he knew what he was doing. He had spent years building a following within like the UFO and metaphysical community because also he's a psychic. Remember that?
Oh, who isn't?
Yep. He appeared on multiple television programs to discuss his proof of life beyond Earth, including ancient aliens. He also appeared on the Montel Williams show in the 90s, insisting we have been visited by hundreds of extraterrestrial life forms, and that he, quote, got close enough to one of these things that was floating around in the desert to actually get my face burned by it.
And that couldn't have been the sun.
One of these things.
You were in the desert.
He
I don't
reminds
believe
me
in big
of
SPF.
big SP,
Big screen.
big block.
Big block.
He reminds me of the dad, the like crazy dad from Independence Day who like played by like Randy Quaid or whatever. Who, like
With their
So
RVs
good.
like running through the desert.
yeah, the RV.
Oh,
That's
God.
kind of
That movie is flawless.
Timeless.
it's exquisite. It's exquisite. It's time for a rewatch.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think of it,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what I'm going to go do.
Yeah.
I love that. So as he made waves in this community, he had his fair share of critics, but his fans didn't give a fuck. He was well aware of his abilities to influence people and had been using that to scam folks out of money since the 90s. This is an excerpt from Wikipedia. Quote, from 1996 to 2010, Morton ran Delphi Associates newsletter, also known as Dan.
No. All Dans.
A print and online publication in which he made economic, financial, and political predictions using his psychic abilities. So he's like putting out a zine.
It's like a farmer's almanac, but just
Yeah.
this dude.
Of his absolutely insane ramblings. In 2001, Morton predicted that the Dow Jones Industrial Average would rise to somewhere around 12,000 in December. The index actually ended at 8,341.
Close the nerve.
I also don't know enough about the Dow Jones Industrial Average to even.
Neither does he.
Yeah. Neither does anyone reading this shit, probably.
No. This guy's just making shit up, putting it in his zine, and
calling it a day.
People are believing it and giving him money.
Jesus.
To invest on their behalf because he can see the future. In 2007, he founded the Delphi Investment Group to allow investors to profit from trading in world currencies based on his predictions. So I'm sure you can see from a mile away where that ends up going, and we'll get to it. Around the same time, likely in 2008, like the worst time for
life,
all of us
to graduate from
financially.
college. Okay.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. The most unprecedented times.
Fuck.
So around 2008, he meets another sovereign citizen spokesperson named Brandon Adams. Brandon brought legitimacy to his money-making claims because his family ran a tax prep business. So he claimed to know the ins and outs of filing your taxes and how to really screw the federal government out of funds by way of huge tax returns and miscellaneous documents that you file with your taxes, essentially like excusing you, getting all these write-offs and excusing you from certain payments. He insisted that the government, through the privatized banks, was discreetly skimming funds off the top of every single transaction we made, which, like, isn't that just taxes?
Yeah, that's called a sales tax.
Yeah. And he advised his followers to file a specific form, a 1099 OID for the tax nerds. I didn't look into it.
No.
And that they could then reclaim the funds that the government was skimming off the top.
That, basically.
Yeah. And I have to imagine that this was also kind of muddled in with what Lucy was talking about, where, like, at birth, these, funds are set aside per person, and here's how you can access them, and blah, blah, blah.
And also, like, is that not Social Security? Or, like, way tied in with it? I don't know.
But like Kenyon said earlier, like, the more you present reason with the intention of sowing doubt with logic, the more that emboldens, like, yeah, that's what they want you to think it is, but it's actually this, you know? People just get so sucked into this shit.
So dumb.
So Sean David was sitting in one of these presentations and asked Brandon if he had seen big refund results through this loophole. And Brandon confidently claimed that he himself had gotten refunds of up to $250,000 with this method. So again, from the New York Times, quote, "The audience lapped it up. This was America during the financial crisis. The banks had been bailed out, but not homeowners, and the era of Tea Party rallies and Occupy Wall Street encampments was imminent. It wasn't too much of a leap to suspect that Washington was in cahoots with the likes of J.P. Morgan."
Well, it is.
Because it is. It's so annoying when it's like, you're so close.
Yeah, and it's like
so close.
People who like defend conspiracy theories and like, oh, like Tonkin Bay or like the Tuskegee experiments and all that stuff. And it's like, well, yes, there's a huge range.
There's legitimacy to a lot of these.
There is legitimacy to a lot of it. And how can you argue against someone who's like, well, what's the difference between that and lizard people with silver eyes running for president?
It just really spirals.
Like, oh, okay.
Well, I sure hope you liked that clip. If you did like that clip, make sure you are subscribing to our YouTube channel, leaving us a nice review, and joining us on Patreon for even more video content, audio content, salacious content all around. Come join us. Treat yourself.